Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rev Games Academy. Since your previous video covered adding and manipulating sprites, the next logical step is to introduce 2D colliders and rigid body physics to bring interactivity and movement to your game. Before we start using Unity, let's first understand Rigidbody2D and Collider2D. A Rigidbody2D makes a game object respond to physics, gravity, forces, and collisions. In real time, imagine you drop a ball to table. The ball bounces, falls, and eventually stops. This happens because gravity pulls it down. In Unity, this effect only happens if you attach a Rigidbody2D to your game object. On the other hand, a Collider2D is an invisible boundary that defines the shape of an object for collision detection. For example, in real life, if you place a TV on a table, it won't fall through because the table acts as a collider, preventing the TV from passing through it. Unity provides different types of 2D colliders like Box Collider2D, Circle Collider2D, Capsule Collider2D, and Polygon Collider2D, which we can use based on the shape of our object. Okay, now let's move on to Unity. We will add Collider2D and Rigidbody2D to the player. Let's dive in. Since the player has a rectangle-like shape, we can either use a Box Collider2D or a Capsule Collider2D. I will use a Capsule Collider2D because it works well for player movement and jumping. To do this, select the player game object, go to the inspector, click Add Component, search for Capsule Collider2D, and add it. Once added, adjust the collider size to fit the player properly so that collisions work accurately. Next, let's add a Rigidbody2D to the player so that it can be affected by physics. Select the player game object again, go to the inspector, click Add Component, search for Rigidbody2D, and add it. Now, if we run the game, we will see that the player falls down immediately. This happens because there is no surface to stop it from falling. To fix this, we need to add a ground. We can do this by creating a new empty game object, renaming it Bottom Collider, and adding a Box Collider2D to it. We then adjust its size to cover the entire bottom area of the screen. Now, when we run the game again, the player will land on the ground and stay there because the collider prevents it from falling through. Bottom Collider. This completes our basic setup for collisions and physics interactions in Unity. In the next video, we will work on player movement and jump mechanics using Rigidbody2D. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions. See you in the next tutorial.